Good afternoon, everyone. This is the English Sports Magazine, and yes, we are for a big part girls, but we love sport, right, Julien? You didn't have your word to say when we chose the subject.
No.
On this program today, we'll focus on expatriates in Paris. It's complicated to integrate a new country with a language you don't really understand, a big challenge accepted by a part of expatriates through sports, and especially friendly sports such as rugby. But what are the origins of this sport? Where did it come from? We'll come back on this subject later with Julien Peronnet, our rugby expert. And to understand how expatriates socialize in Paris, we have followed the British Football Rugby Club, such a nice team which accepted with enthusiasm our request. Report in a minute. And finally, Luke Curtis, the captain of the British Rugby Football Club, is here with us. He will speak about his passion for rugby with Marie Caroline Meijer. It's the only sport followed by millions of people all over the world with a really good spirit. But one question is still open. Where does rugby come from? Julien Peronnet, hello.
Hello, Marine.
You are our rugby expert. Explain us the origins.
Rugby is a city in the Warwickshire in the centre of England on the Avon River. It is a well-known town in England. And this is where rugby was born. Nowadays, it is a well-known sport played all over the world, from Samoa to South Africa, Georgia, Argentina or Canada. The original game was invented in the rugby college. If we follow the legend, during a game of soccer, William Webelis, a student of this school, took the ball in his arm and put it behind the rival's goal line, whereas the ordinary rule was to push it with feet.
And what's the next step, Julien? How did it become official?
This practice, which now had the distinction of football, played in the town of Rugby, was codified for the first time in 1946. Subsequently, the alumni got together to write down the rules. The rugby football was born. College rugby is one of the oldest schools in England and one of the most prestigious in the country. Rugby school rules and rugby football are definitely separate from other football in 1863 during the creation of the Football Association, and this federation was founded in 1871, the Rugby Football Union. Writing the rules of rugby football has helped it spread through the world since the 1850s. It is then mixed with local practice to create, in the second half of the 19th century, Gaelic football in Ireland, or the Australian football, the Canadian and the American football. In 1895, the Northern Clubs of England left the Rugby Football Union to create the Northern Rugby Football Union, which became in 1922 the Rugby Football League. In 1906, the rules of NRFU decreased the number of players per team from 15 to 13, which allowed France to differentiate the two games by designation Rugby League and Rugby Union.
And actually, what kind of rugby does exist?
In the 20th century, many variations have been developed to extend the practice to the largest number of rugby. Actually, the best known varieties are the rugby with 15 players, the rugby with 13 players, and the rugby with 7 players, which will become an Olympic sport in Rio in 2016.
Thanks, Julien. Now you will understand why the British Rugby Football Club is a big family. The club has been formed in 1923 by English expats to make friends, play sport and have a good time. Half of the club is composed of the English community who stay in Paris for a short period. Reports made by Julien Peronnet, Marie Caroline Meijer and Marine Pujol.
All right, boys. Let's have a squeeze on 3. 1, 2, 3, squeeze! That's it, boys. That's the intensity you want.
This is the battle cry of the British Rugby Football Club, which is a rugby team based in Paris and composed of more than 50% of English expatriates. And here's the moment they all expect every weekend, when they can finally reunite on a pitch. The match is a special occasion for these expatriates to escape the Parisian daily routine. It is well known that rugby is more than a unifying sport. Richard Wolff is one of these players. He arrived in France only 2 years ago, and the club has allowed him to socialise.
It was very easy to have joined a French rugby club when I got here, but I mean, I love the English rugby spirit, Obviously, I played most of my life in the UK, so I decided to come and find something very similar over here. The club is more than just a rugby club, really. It's a network of people who, I mean, a lot of people come here for 6 months, a year, just on like a study placement or a work placement or something like that, and then they leave again. So when they come here, they don't really know anyone, and rugby is a very good way to get to know a lot of people very quickly. I mean, when I got here, I didn't know anyone. I came down to one training session, and now I've got friends that I've made for the rest of my life.
The match is over now, and after effort comes comfort, so let's go to the club's headquarters. After every game, all the players meet together at a bar called the Bowler. Tonight, it's the beginning of the Six Nation tournament, the occasion for them to meet some new people and to make some friends. Emmanuel Buscas, the club's vice president, is convinced that the club is a social platform.
He's one of the guys sitting right behind me, actually. He came here on an exchange program, Erasmus, so he was a year in Paris as a 21-year-old student. He loved it. Went back to England, finished his degree, and then had to make a choice whether or not he was going to stay in England or come back to Paris to find work. And he actually found it easier to find work in Paris than in England, simply because one of the guys playing for us was quitting his job, had to recommend someone else to take over for him, and recommended Richard.
Marcus Hanna, who's Irish, believes that his experience with the BRFC was one of the most important of his life.
Together, we sort of go out for pints, as you've seen tonight, just to watch the rugby, as well as we go out during the week, etc. for that there as well. It's a great bunch of lads. Since I've moved to Paris, it's been a great sort of support network as well. Like here, basically, we all come to the Bowler directly after the game, and we all stay here. We go out together, everything like that. Whereas at home, it's completely different because you've got your own social network at home. So you'd stay for a little while and then go out with your friends. But here, everyone is our friends, so it's like a big family, effectively. It's great.
The British Rugby Club has allowed many players to integrate into French society. It's a big family with different people from countries such as the United States, England, New Zealand and many others. In a word, a family made of people from all over the world.
Marie Caroline Meijer, you have with our guest Luke Curtis. Luke, 25 years old, teaches sports at the British School of Paris and the American School, and most of all is the captain of the BRFC. We'll talk about his passion for rugby, so Marie Caroline is all to you.
Hi Luke, so you're a rugbyman. Why did you choose to play this sport?
It's not something that I really chose. My granddad played rugby, my dad played rugby, so it's kind of just been passed on through kind of family traditions.
All right. So you used to play rugby. I imagine you used to play rugby before coming in Paris.
Yeah, I was playing in England before being in France, and then before that I was in Australia playing out in Sydney.
All right. And what matters most to you, rugby or your daily life?
I guess they both, I find, come hand in hand. So rugby kind of leads you on to everything that you do in life. So kind of keeping yourself fit and going to the gym and stuff is all to do with playing rugby. Your day-to-day kind of social life, you're meeting up with all your rugby friends and seeing them outside of the rugby setting. So I think for me they both go together.
Okay, that's nice. So could you tell me, do you have any other passion than rugby?
I guess, no, that's quite a hard question because when I'm not playing rugby, I coach a rugby team as well. So I coach an under-18 side, so my whole time is kind of split between rugby and spending time with my friends from rugby, so no, I guess probably not.
And what are the values that you like in rugby? I mean, what do they reflect from your personality?
I think the biggest one is respect across the whole level, whether it's for fellow teammates, opposition, officials. I think something that, especially through teaching rugby, is you get to see a lot is the respect that's laid on all levels that you don't necessarily in all sports, and it kind of plays out in everyday life, and also just the hard work and commitment and like friendship again that you get from rugby kind of comes through in all walks of life really.
But when you say respect, I mean, it's kind of strange because rugby is a really violent sport. So how can you respect someone and being violent?
A lot of people ask that question. It is quite a difficult one to understand. But I think it's just about knowing when to stop, knowing how things work. We all know we're going out there to, like, you say you go out to hit people, but not necessarily to hurt them. You want to make an impact and you want to be strong, whatnot, but as soon as that whistle goes or the referee makes a decision, then it all stops. And the best part about rugby, especially being from the British Rugby Club, is every game is that we're playing the British because we're playing French teams. They want to come out, but as soon as the game stopped, it's the respect of we're here together. We go and have a beer, we go sit in the clubhouse. On Saturday, we had the whole team stay down and watch the England-France game with us at the club down in Dormont, so that was really, really nice to see. And that is that just a respect for rugby, that everyone kind of draws a line at the end of a game and we kind of become friends after 80 minutes of hitting about each other.
So even if you hit each other, you stay friends?
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit harder than others, but there's always that understanding and knowing that, okay, it was in the game, we put it behind us now and we carry on. And the same with the referees. The referee makes the decision, okay, he made his decision, you go away, you know, you don't say anything, and then you see him after the game, you talk about maybe the game, but you never, and it's just, I mean, in rugby you always call the referee sir, or monsieur l'arbitre, I guess in French, and in other sports that I've been involved with, that hasn't been the case. So I think that's where the respect comes in.
And in which other sports were you involved before?
I've been involved quite a lot in a game I don't think they know too well in France, cricket, which is a totally different game, really hard to explain. A lot of soccer and squash as well, or football, sorry, and squash. But yeah, so it's not quite the same as rugby, but...
And I wanted to ask you, have you ever wanted to be a professional player? I mean, have you ever imagined yourself playing?
I guess growing up, I did. Like when you're younger, when you're about 12, 13, you see these stars on TV and you think, oh, I'd love to be like that. But then when I started to understand like the hard work, the commitment, and just, I mean, I'm not very big, and you see some of these guys who are massive. I wouldn't fancy having to put my body on the line for that. But no, so not necessarily so much.
Right. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It was the English Sports Magazine. Thank you for your attention. We'll be back in a week for a special edition on soccer. Bye.